Okay, welcome back to another Between the Pages book chat. And today our guest is author Kate Seger. And we're going to be talking about her book, The Wood Witch's Daughter. And now I'm going to turn it over to her and let her introduce herself. So take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate. I'm the author of The Wood Witch's Daughter, as was mentioned. It's the first book in a trilogy, the Ethereal Realms trilogy. The second book is out, and the third book will be out in February. I live in New York with my rescue dog, and yeah, that's about it.
Mm.
Not too exciting.
Yeah, well, I get that. I'm not too exciting either in real life.
I like things
Um,
to be calm.
so tell us about the book. What's it about?
It's a portal fantasy, so it's basically about a young adult heroine who is kind of living her life a little dystopian, like she's kind of disliked by the people around her, and she gets basically kidnapped and transported into this alternate universe, the ethereal realms, which in her world there's no magic, but in the ethereal realms the fae are basically the rulers of the realm, and magic is basically the thing that rules everything. So it's kind of a chosen one trope. They think that she is the person who will rescue them from this oncoming catastrophe, and she's like, you guys are crazy, like I'm just a girl and I don't know why you brought me here.
Yeah, I think that would be the typical reaction of most people if that happened. So kudos for doing
And I
that.
would probably be like, oh awesome, like I've been waiting for this my whole life, but any normal person.
Yeah, no, I'd be like, no, I don't want to be the chosen one. The chosen one goes through awful things. Take me
True.
home.
I subject my characters to terrible things.
Okay, so what were your reasons for writing the book, your inspirations?
Well, honestly, I was going to write something completely different for NaNoWriMo in 2019. And then I just suddenly I actually went to bed and I had some wine the night before, and I had one of those crazy wine drinking dreams. And it was like a dream where the person got transported to another realm. And I've always been a fan of portal fantasy. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to scrap this other project for now, put it on the back burner, and try this portal fantasy. Um, and so I did. But yeah, like portal fantasies like Sarah J. Maas and like Stephen King's like Dark Tower series, they've always been something that really resonated with me as something that I would always want to work on. So when I had that dream, I felt it was kind of like a kismet telling me that I should do it.
Okay, so you mentioned the Fae. Did you base the world in sort of the traditional Fae mythology, or did you sort of just go your own way?
I twisted it around a bit. I definitely took like the fairy courts idea, but my fairy courts are very different from like the traditional summer, winter, spring. I made them based on the elements. So there's like the court of fire, the court of wind, the court of sea, the court of sky, the court of earth. But there's definitely, my mother's Irish, and we've always been very into Irish and Scottish folklore in our family. So I've always kind of had that whole thing in the back of my mind. So there's definitely a tie-in with that, but it's definitely also tweaked a little bit to be not quite the same as the authentic folklore.
Okay, so one of our viewers here, she understands the wine characters, the correlations.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the main character. What's she like?
The main character, Arianette, she's basically been ostracized her entire life. So she's simultaneously kind of looking to belong, but also really unsure of herself and doesn't really know a lot about who she is. Like she has never really delved into herself very deeply from like an introspective level. And like I said, it's a young adult novel, so there's a big theme of coming of age in it and discovering who she is both as a person and as what her role in this whole thing that's going on in the ethereal realms is. So initially she's very unsure and kind of the lost, oh no, what am I going to do? Kind of damsel in distress. But she definitely starts to recognize and realize like what innate power she has within herself and use that to better her situation.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the world. What can we expect?
Um, like I said, it's the Fae realm, so each realm has its own kind of, there's a magic system, and the various Fae are able to perform magic based on what realm they're born into. There's also like a long-standing war between the Fae and the elves. So there's also some elven magic, which is a little different from the fairy magic, but I don't want to give too much away about that because it's like a main plot point. But there's lots of like fantasy creatures, like wyverns and all sorts of unicorns, Pegasus. Lots of fantasy elements in the world building. There's some like god and goddess lore that gets alluded to, but it isn't until the third book that you actually really get a grasp of what's going on with the gods and their relation to the Fae themselves. But yeah, there's lots of lore that kind of ties into like lore in this realm, but is slightly altered.
Okay, so I have to ask because it seems to keep coming up on this show. Are there dragons?
No.
Okay.
But
that's refreshing,
my
actually.
next book series, when I finish this one, has dragons as a main component.
Yeah, dragons keep showing up on this show a lot, so I have to ask.
But they did not make it into this book. They just didn't fit what I needed to happen. There's wyverns, which they ride, but they're not really dragons. Like, it's definitely not a dragon book.
Okay, so
but I love dragons. There will be dragons.
What was the hardest scene or type of scene for you to write in the book?
Well, there's a love triangle in this book, which I know some people hate, but I happen to be a huge fan of love triangles. You love them or you hate them. And some of the things that I had to make the main character do, one way or another, someone was going to be basically emotionally vivisected. And I really kind of empathize with my characters. I feel like they're all a little bit of me. So hurting my characters in that emotional way is always kind of a little traumatic.
Okay, so we have a question. Are the courts in the inner world or each in their own individual realms of existence that you access through portals?
They're actually all in the same realm. There's only two realms. There's on Earth, which is where the mortals go. There was a veil that was created by the elves to divide on Earth from the ethereal realms, which is where the Fae and other magic users live, to protect the mortals, because the Fae were basically gonna annihilate them and take over the world. So there's only two worlds. There's the magic world and the not magic world.
So the different fairies, they would be more like kingdoms in the world then?
Yes.
Okay, so what is your favorite scene or type of scene that you wrote in the book?
I have one character who is her name is Morgane, and she's a very gray area character, and it's very difficult to tell whether she's good or evil and what her ultimate goal is. It took me 2 books to realize what her ultimate goal is. That's how shady and mysterious she is. So I'm in the 3rd book, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I know where she's going. But I always love writing her scenes because there's always this element of like, do I trust her? Do I not trust her? Is she good? Is she bad? What is she actually? Where does she stand in all of this? So I'm a big fan of gray area villains. So I really like the scenes with Morgane where you're kind of in this position where you just don't know what she's all about and whether she's doing the right thing or doing something horrible.
Yeah, they're always the most fun. So tell us a little bit about the secondary characters. Are any of them a little quirky, steal the scenes, or are they just sort of there for decoration?
I don't believe in characters for decoration.
Oh, good.
I have one character. I don't want to give anything away, but she sold the scene to the point where I had to write her a separate novella because I was like, this book does not belong in this book. Like, this is a story that doesn't really have anything to do with the main plot line. So I wound up writing her a secondary novella. But yeah, Lorna is her name, and she is the ostracized sister of the queen of the Shadow Fae, and she's kind of at this point basically fighting for the wrong side because she has allied with the Fae, who are the enemies of the Shadow Court. And she's always a great character to write because she is in that position where she has to contemplate her loyalty. Like, this is my family who I grew up with. This is everyone I've ever known, but they're doing something I don't believe in. So she's always interesting to write because she has that conflict going on. And then there's the two, like I said, it's a love triangle. There's the two, they're half brothers who are in love with Arianette. And so there's always a good amount of conflict between the two of them. They're very different. One of them is like a playboy, like throw caution to the wind sort, and the other one is the captain of the army, and he's very relegated, and I'm here to protect you and serve you. So that's always, you have that thing between the two of them. They're very different, but they both have their own allure.
Cool. So Rebecca agrees with you about Morgaine. She should always be shady.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what are your characters afraid of?
Arianette is afraid she's not good enough, both for herself and for other people. I don't think she, even by the third book, I don't think she really is fully grasped what she's capable of. Varric, who is the Sky Lord, who is the elder brother who controls the court and is in love with her, he's afraid of rejection and also being forced to make decisions, which is bad because he's a person who is supposed to be making the decision. And his half brother is Brayden, is afraid that he will always be second best. And I don't know what Morgana is afraid of because I think she's pretty fearless.
Well, maybe you'll figure that out by book 3.
I'm sure there's something, but yeah. So far.
Yeah, maybe she's afraid of mice or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so which character would you like to hang out with in real life?
Morgane. She's my favorite character. Again, I feel like I could glean lots of insightful advice on how to live my life going forward and just be who I was meant to be, because she's a very confident character. She always knows what she's doing. She always knows where she's going. And she's also just intriguing. And I would love to pick her brain more than I already do while writing her.
Okay, so you mentioned a few other books that you're writing or written, and I'm assuming they're fantasy?
Yeah, all fantasy.
Do you want to write outside the genre, or is it just fantasy for the future for you?
I'm on Vella, on Amazon Vella. I have a dystopian kind of post-apocalyptic zombie apocalypse. I think it's up to 60 episodes now that I'm working on, and that's kind of at the moment as far outside that realm as I want to get. But I have notebooks full of other stories that aren't fantasy that, like, I'm like, one day I'll write this, but they've never managed to reach the top of the pile yet, except that zombie apocalypse one. So maybe someday.
Okay, so what can we look forward to in the future coming out from you?
I have a rapid release of 3 fairy tale retellings.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like a dystopian werewolf vampire Red Riding Hood retelling is the first one that comes out on December 1st. And then on the 15th is it's like a loosely based on 1001 Arabian Nights retelling, genies and harems and all kinds of interesting things. And then a very, very dark, like darker than the original, if it's possible, Little Mermaid retelling that comes out on the 30th.
Well, that's interesting because I'm doing fairy tale retellings myself this month, and I actually wrote Red Riding Hood, Little Mermaid, and one of the stories from Arabian Nights, Alibaba.
Oh, that's crazy! Great minds think alike.
Yeah, I mean, my stories are all set from the female protagonist point of view, so it was an interesting. Anyway, I think
mine are mostly too. The Arabian Nights one actually bounces between 2 perspectives, but most of mine, I also did Greek mythology retellings. I did 3 Greek myths, and they were all from the female perspective because I feel like it's an overlooked element mythology.
Yeah, getting the female perspective from the Arabian Nights was a little difficult. That's why I went with the Alibaba story, because there's actually a female slave in the story,
Mm-hmm.
in the original story. So I did it from her perspective, so which was interesting. And
That's cool.
I actually said it. I said it in ancient Rome and Turkey. So
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I created a whole, as usual, a high fantasy realm where I could do whatever I wanted, not have to follow any rules.
Yeah, I went with kind of just reinterpreting it and putting it in other histories and stuff like that. So yeah, my Snow White's about as far from the original as it can get, though, because it's set in feudal Japan, and the Wicked Queen falls in love with Snow White.
Oh, that's awesome! I love that.
Yeah, and it doesn't end well because they're horror fantasy stories. But
my 1001 Arabian Nights, the Jasmine from Disney character, who is completely different and named something different, winds up in the harem and winds up falling from one of the other girls in the harem. So I like that twist of making it not all cis, you know.
Yeah. It's interesting to go that way. Anyway, so so I think we'll wrap it up here on that note, and I'll let you tell everyone where they can find you and your books.
I am at Kate Seger author pretty much everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I am on TikTok, but don't expect anything impressive because I have no idea what I'm doing because I'm old. I'm working on it, but I still don't know how to work TikTok. And I'm on obviously Amazon, BookBub, all those other places. It's all Kate Seger author.
Okay, so thank you for being here. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
And you can find a link to her book, The Wood Witch's Daughter, in the description below. And please check it out. And check it out, if only for that gorgeous cover, because and that cover is something.
I have to give praise to Danielle Doolittle from Duell Designs, who made that cover. I was like, I want something cool with leaves, and that is what she came up.
She delivered on that. That is one spectacularly cool looking cover. Anyway, so again, thank you for being here. And Between the Pages, we'll be back next week with another author, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.